What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So looking forward into this upcoming week, data point wise, we have a lot of Fed speakers, at least two almost every single day. So that in among itself could cause some volatility. Some hot topics will be what the tariffs are going to do potentially to, I guess, the labor market, monetary policy, rate cuts, because the market, keep in mind, was starting to price in as of Friday because of the Michigan consumer sentiment data coming in a little bit worse for wear. The market was starting to price in essentially a rate cut, not for the June, but rather for the July meeting. So that is kind of a good thing overall for stocks such as SoFi, because loans, obviously there'll be a little bit more of an increase in demand for loans and whatever else, but July you did see a little bit more of a bump up for a 25 basis point cut. Still 34.2% likelihood of a 50, and then a 2.6% likelihood of a 75. But nonetheless, that this will change by the end of this week, given all the Fed speakers. In addition to that, though, the market is going to be pricing in this. I did talk on this about on Friday on why I felt it wasn't that big of a deal. It will probably cause some volatility on Monday, but that will be pretty much it. That's going to be the extent of the damage. So the States was downgraded by Moody's, in case you kind of know or missed it. I'm pretty sure everyone knows at this stage in the game. Last time the States was downgraded was August 1st, 2023, caused the market to go down 0.29%. So nothing overly crazy. Like a day after, 2 weeks after, nobody was talking about it. No different than this time around. So it might cause some kind of uncertainty. I'm sure you're going to have some analysts coming out saying, hey, time to panic. But Tuesday, by the end of the week, we're not going to be talking about this whatsoever, in my opinion. But what do I know? Aside from that, no fireside chats, nothing like that anticipated for this upcoming week. Even though we haven't received any new analyst ratings, I have been watching what analysts have been doing and kind of some of the estimates. And it did finally bump up a little bit faster. So looking at some of the estimates, now you see for Q3 2026, 1.03 billion for the average revenue. So they're going to be above $1 billion in revenue. That's huge. So previously, prior to their last earnings, it was Q4. That was where they were going to break that 1 billion threshold. So analysts are starting to get a little bit more optimistic on SoFi behind the scenes. So good to see. As far as is it a reason to go out and buy SoFi this upcoming week? Not so much, but I felt this obviously might kind of influence some institutions to really start getting in more than what they have been, because yeah, definitely you see solid double-digit growth, year-over-year growth, all the way up to pretty much Q4 2027. So this is one of those types of investments that, yes, it gets manipulated. Yes, it doesn't go according to plan, but this is a solid, well-run company, in my opinion. So even though you might have a dip on Monday, potentially throughout the week on various stages, this is one of those ones I feel like you just need to continue to dollar cost average, buy the dip and whatever else. So again, a little bit more of a side note, for instance, if you're looking to average down, Monday might be a good day. But aside from that, looking into this upcoming week, 13.52% of the free floats being shorted, works out to be 146.82 million shares overall are being shorted. I anticipate shorts to really piggyback off of Monday's fear, so they might be increasing. But aside from that, though, I think it's going to be dependent on kind of what the Fed speakers do say. One thing as well that could kind of impact the broader market in a positive way is tariff deals. But even though Trump did state that there was going to be another one coming, I guess it was supposed to be tail end of last week or even this week, from what I've seen, like the only thing that's come out recently was the fact that the States and Europe don't seem to be aligning for tariffs. So I don't know if that is still going to be planned for this week, or if there is still one planned for this week. If so, then that could really give the market a nice push higher. If not, then I think it's just going to be kind of reliant based on what the Fed speakers do say. But with SoFi closing above that 1350 strike price, so closed at 1392, went down a little bit after hours, so I'll kind of talk on that. But with it closing at 1392, that does mean that the 1350 and below strike prices are all in the money. So 17,000 at that 1350, 21,000 at that 13, 10,000 at that 12. So meaning this upcoming Monday, you'll see a nice little bump up in theory as market makers have to cover all of those shares, just shy of roughly around 3 million. So definitely good to see. After hours, you did see a lot of abnormal transactions on Friday. It is hard to kind of distinguish whether this was big money kind of covering those call options or if they were selling based off of the Moody's downgrade. So it's kind of hard to tell, but in my opinion, I think that still based on all of these transactions, it still doesn't really add up to the overall call options. So you might see a little bit of a bump up come Monday, possibly. We'll just have to, I guess, wait and see how that plays out. But with it at 1392, trading between this R1 and the pivot, so 1413 is going to be kind of a point to possibly watch for, I guess, Tuesday going forward. 1187 will be that next strong kind of support. Aside from that, it is, as of on the actual chart itself, factoring in that 1351, so the after hours activity, it is below that 100-day moving average. So unfortunately, kind of breaking down a little bit, but a couple of key points to really watch for is moving over to the fib levels once again, a little bit more of a shorter kind of term. So the 4 hour, 1367 and then 1342. Those are kind of going to be some points to watch for, at least in the short term. Aside from that, though, you have a very strong support at that $12 range. So you have both the 50 and 200-day moving averages. So that is kind of worst case scenario if it does kind of hit that this upcoming week, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see how that all plays out. Like I said, I feel like it is just going to be a temporary dip come Monday, and then it'll retest that 100-day moving average. So that's going to be a key level to really watch for. That 100-day moving average is 1371. So all in all, anticipate a lot of volatility this week, but if you believe in SoFi, as what I kind of mentioned even during this time frame, it is very difficult to kind of call the bottom. So you just have to find good, credible companies that are profitable, have a lot of cash, good management, and dollar cost average. So all in all, I feel like this upcoming week, we will be landing somewhere between where we were. So between this R3 and this R2 by the end of the week. So let me know your viewpoint on that. Do you kind of agree? Do you think that we are going to really pull back? I see a lot of people saying that previous downgrades did cause like the market to go down like 6%. And yes, technically, the very first time the States ever was downgraded, I believe it was in 2011, that did cause a crazy shock because, again, that was the first time that ever happened, and it caused the market to go down, I believe, 5.5%. Since then, like I said, the last one was August the 1st, 2023. Now the market's like, okay, cool, what's next? So it went down 0.29%. So I feel like the market nowadays is just very much like, okay, cool, thanks for the update, now what's next? So I feel like the market, even though it did go down after hours on Friday, it's will not really impact it aside from Monday. But again, what do I know? I could be very wrong, and this might be the start of the impending kind of downfall of just markets as we know it. Who knows? Hopefully everyone had a good weekend. Let me know where you see things going. So throw your predictions in the comments below. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon and give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.